Welcome to the Bodybuilding Banter Podcast, your number one source of all things bodybuilding. Be sure to like and subscribe to stay up to date on future episodes. Now, here's your host, Leroy Rollins.
Man, I want to thank you for coming on the podcast. I'm super excited that we can, finally chat. I've been, keeping an eye on you on Instagram the last, couple months, I guess. I stumbled across you, and probably when you did the Mr. America is when I first kind of found out about you. So, man, I'm excited to sit down and chat.
Absolutely. I appreciate you for having me on, man. Super excited.
So for those who don't know who you are, my man, give a brief introduction and tell them what you're all about.
So my name's Joe Lacerra. I guess from the, recent bodybuilding side, as you already just mentioned, kind of my coming out party, if you will, from a competitive standpoint was winning the first ever Classic Physique Mr. America title. So, the Mr. America show, this was the first time it had been put on since 2016, I believe. So it was off for a few years. As a lot of the, the rights to the show were changing hands. Mark Torriello, who's a promoter with the INBA, acquired the rights to it. Persevered through hell and high water basically to put it on for 2020. And this, back in 2016, Classic Physique really wasn't a thing. It had just kind of broke in with the NPC IFBB. So it wasn't really a, big division yet. So it didn't really hit the natural organizations till I think like 2017, 2018. Yeah. So this being the first year for Classic Physique at the Mr. America, and we won the title. So that was definitely the coming out party competitive wise. I started competing back in 2016. In men's physique with, the OCB, INBF, I've, done ANBF shows. So I'm not really loyal to any one federation per se. I'm a competitor first. So I like to go where, either it's, easier for me to compete travel wise, or who has the best shows. So I like to go everywhere. So not really loyal to one federation. So started in men's physique and then kind of worked my way through into Classic Physique and, found my home there.
That's awesome. So correct me if I'm wrong, but the Mr. America, it's like one of the longest running American shows, correct?
Absolutely. I believe it, as Mark has given us the history background plenty of times, I believe it is the longest running contest in American bodybuilding, starting with, I think, back in 1939, when it was first happening, back at the AAU, and it had ran so many years. It was, split for a while between the AAU and the IFBB had their own version of it. And then it's, like I said, in recent years, it had sort of changed hands a few times, and now leading to it being unsanctioned, which I think is one of the coolest parts about it, because it does, pull in competitors from pretty much anywhere. You don't have to have a membership to do the Mr. America. A lot of the natural organizations, obviously, they make you, have a membership on top of it. And I totally understand that from a business perspective. But, Mr. America is pretty cool because it pulls in all the best talent.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's now drug tested too, which is obviously for guys like us is a huge drawing point to that as well. So what was the process with the drug testing when you competed?
So the drug testing was pretty much, winners and, at random, they were pulling people for urine. It wasn't polygraph freehand, but, and obviously everybody has their opinions on, polygraph, as a deterrent or, the validity of it. But obviously the biggest, form of validity is the urine testing. So, all winners. And they were just pulling people, at random in between prejudging and finals. They were just kind of yanking people out of, the backstage area saying, you're coming out and getting tested. So they tested a large portion, and not only just, pros and amateurs alike, which I found was pretty cool because even, if an amateur was to win, their class at the Mr. America, it's not like they get a pro card because there's no federation to Mr. America. It's just, you get the amateur Mr. America title, which is cool. But they were drug tested amateurs too, which was really cool to see. So pretty much.
I didn't know. I thought, because I remember reading it was all pros invited, but I didn't know they had an amateur as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep, they have it's a full pro, full amateur show. The one thing, and I know Mark was kind of toying with this, and I do agree with the stance on this. With being at Mr. America, there's no crossovers allowed. So you basically you pick your class, you're in it. Some federations, whether it's agreed upon or not, you can do bodybuilding and Classic Physique or, two different classes. But at Mr. America, you're slated to pick one class, which I think is good for the sport. You should kind of stay in your lane and, go where you go. I love bodybuilding at the end of the day, but, Classic Physique is where my heart's at. So that's where I stick. So.
Based on what you saw, do you think the natural aspect of the show was adhered to?
Absolutely. I do, because if you look at the bodybuilding winners, the guy that won the bodybuilding class, Jason Brew, longtime natural bodybuilder with,
Amazing physique, by the
oh,
way.
God,
For those that don't know,
oh,
Natty's
God,
physique.
we're gonna start raving about the bodybuilders. So we're both bodybuilding fans here, but
Yeah.
absolutely disgusting.
Dave Brew Fit, I believe, is his
Mhm.
Instagram. So if you're watching this right now, grab your phone and just
Please do. If you don't already follow the guy, please go. And to watch, and I said this in a other recent podcast I did with Kent Beerley, the president of the AMBF. This isn't taking away from any of the other competitors, but to watch Jay and Siobhan go head to head in the middle was just as a bodybuilding fan, there was nothing better. I mean, because they present two completely different physiques. Obviously it's kind of apples and oranges, but they both just looked absolutely nuts up there, and it was so cool to watch. So
it's cool to see, like I've had this conversation with a few people now regarding, a show of shows, right? Where, you mentioned earlier that it's not, there's no pro cards handed out because it's not an organization per se, but, you can get WNBF pros, OCB pros, INBA pros, like all these different, top level athletes, go head to head and just see like, okay, who stands tall in the end, right? Which is super cool.
Absolutely. That was my favorite part about it. And, with the Classic Physique class, I went up against the PNBA's Natural Olympia champion, and to me as a competitor, and I'm sure you feel the same way, we want to get compared against the best people. You don't want to have any free wins per se. And I pose this to all my competitors, that I may coach or anybody, would you rather look your best and lose or look worse than you did last time, but still win? And obviously the answer hands down is to, be your best. But, if somebody shows up better than you, obviously that's where the chips fall. But we want to go up against the best people at the end of the day as competitors. We want to be compared against the best and, and fight out against the best.
For sure. So let's get into, I guess, probably the most interesting aspect of, what's going on in your world right now. And that's you're going to be on reality TV, my man.
Yes. We're going to be on television, which is so cool.
So I guess where'd this start from? I know very little outside of what I've seen yourself post, and then Brandon Wattis, the Natty guy, post as well, right? So I guess you're gonna educate me as much as everybody else listening. What's the deal?
Sure. So I guess I'll start we'll reverse engineer. We'll start back in 2020. And kind of lead up through. So I know Mark wanted to do, and he did do a ton of production for 2020. So before anything even starts for 2021, there is a wrap up coming of the 2020 show that's going to be aired, I believe, on CBS Sports Network as well, which is who has picked up the 2021 TV series. So there is going to be a full wrap up of the 2020 show to air before we even start filming for 2021.
Now, do you know if that'll be available anywhere else? Like, will it be on YouTube or anything like that? Any idea?
That I'm not sure. I don't know with, the rights having it be to CBS Sports Network. I don't know if it's going to be, kind of wrote off anywhere else. So Mark did, he's working with a local production company. I'm sure people from CBS are going to be coming out as well. But I know the 2020 footage is basically in the final stages of editing it all together, because there was, and for 2020 for there to even be, cameras everywhere, it was super cool. There's professional film crew, basically running around us all backstage. We were doing little pop-up interviews and everything like that. So it was super cool. So I know 2021 is just going to be a bigger version of that. Yeah. But basically what Mark, the promoter, had done was kind of an open casting call. So basically you had to apply to it as an athlete, and you had to meet certain requirements. You had to basically go through an application of why you kind of deserve to be featured, what you brought to the table as an athlete. And obviously the one stipulation is that, you have to do the show in 2021. Otherwise it doesn't really make any sense. So he picked, I believe, about one athlete from each major division, of the pros. So, myself, Brandon Wattis, the Natty guy there, he was, I think the one bodybuilder is representing. I know there's, a bikini, a figure competitor. So I believe there's 5 to 6 of us that are all going to be featured throughout this 2021 series. And it's going to be sort of a docuseries in a sense. I know they're going to do some filming as far as, the day in the life goes. how we go about our processes, how we go about our training, our jobs, our day-to-day lives. We're going to do some training footage at the Mr. America Training Center. So Mark is a gym owner, like myself. So he has a couple facilities in North Jersey. I'm a New Jersey guy, if I didn't mention that earlier. So he's got a couple gyms up in North Jersey that are, the Mr. America training facilities where he has, all of kind of the memorabilia and the Mr. America gear. So we're going to be doing some, training footage there. And then it all culminates obviously with us competing at the 2021 show. Our entire lead up of the process of the prep, and then the final episode, if you will be us competing.
That's sick.
Yeah.
So when is filming starting? Like, does it start when you start prep? How is that structured? Do you know?
So I believe they're going to do it on kind of an individual athlete basis, but I know they want to start filming, sometime in the next month or two. So I believe, March, maybe the beginning of April, they'll start filming us. Obviously, we're all spread out throughout the country. I'm in New Jersey, Brandon's in Indiana. I know one of the bikini competitors, her name is, stumbling me right now, but she's in Virginia. So there's, a ton of us. We're all across the country, which is super cool. So they're going to, they have their work cut out for them, I guess, in that sense, because they're going to be, bopping around and bringing us all about. But I believe filming is going to be kicking off in the next month or so. I do know that they want to roll out the 2020 stuff first.
Yeah.
And that's going to be kind of used as, I guess, sort of like hype video for what's to come in 2021. Because they want to show people, what happened at the show. They did some competitor interviews. I know I have some interviews that are going to be in that 2020 wrap up. And then, then we're full steam ahead for this year.
That's awesome. So for yourself, what is your kind of goals for, being in this position? Like, is there, certain aspects of bodybuilding you want to get across, or points of your career that you want to, hopefully relay through this whole process? Like, what is your, you're kind of a character. Like, what's your vision?
Absolutely. So as I said from the outset, I'm a competitor first. So goal number one, I have to be selfish, is to win the title again. It's the competitive blood in me. I started out, as a kid competing in martial arts, and then, when martial arts was, kind of, done, I competed probably from the time I was 5 up through, when I turned 18. I'm 25 now. A couple years later, we found, bodybuilding competitions, and, it kind of took over the competitive spirit. So, if there's goal number one, it's the selfish goal. It's to repeat that title and to keep it in my court. But I want to be an ambassador for the sport as well. I want to, show people that, especially, naturally, I feel like people from the outside looking in, the general public, sometimes gets the wrongful idea of, what a bodybuilder is, because they see, the Mr. Olympia competitors, and that is obviously their full-time career, because of the marketing of the IFBB and endorsement deals and things like that, are in that sector of bodybuilding that, we as natural athletes don't really have the access to, because, it's just not there, which is fine. I love my life as, a husband, a dog father, a gym owner. I love it. But I want to show people that, the bodybuilding lifestyle, if you will, is something that we incorporate into our day-to-day lives. It's something that enhances our life. It doesn't necessarily take it over. Just because this is a lifestyle choice that we choose to make, and we are a little niche, if you will, in the fitness industry. It's something that we make a part of our lives. It doesn't consume our lives. And I just want to be a good ambassador for the sport. So that's kind of, I guess, the main goal of, the reality TV series. I want to, first have, all people out there go, I want to look like that guy. That would be, cool as well.
Yeah.
But just to show people that, you can do this. And whether your goal is a bodybuilding stage or not, you can, achieve your goals and make them a part of your life, no matter what you choose to do.
Yeah, I think, you talked about it there briefly, but the incorporating it into your life, you know what I mean? I think when people see or think bodybuilding, it's all encompassing. There's the, you're in a dark room cooking your food. There's nothing else going on in the world but
right.
Your food, your training, all that kind of stuff. But for most of us, I think outside of even top IFBB pros will echo this statement as well, that, a lot of us have normal jobs, normal lives. You're married, I'm engaged, we have houses, like, we're just normal people, but
yeah.
we bodybuild, right? And I think that'll be an interesting story to tell, right? So I'm excited to see what unfolds of it, because I think it'll be very good for the sport.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's going to be good to first of all showcase natural bodybuilding in the light of it, because I feel like a lot of people don't realize that we do have our own little niche. And I almost hate using the term natural bodybuilding sometimes, because it kind of sounds like I'm trying to stand on my high horse, because I'm just choosing a certain way to go about things. We're still bodybuilders. We're all bodybuilders at the end of the day. We're just choosing a different competitive path, if you will. So I hate even calling it, natural bodybuilding, or, kind of putting that term on it. We're bodybuilders. We deserve the same respect. We're just choosing to go about it a different way. But like you said, we're just incorporating it into our life and having it enhance our life. I mean, like I said, from the lead up of, martial arts and bodybuilding, to me, kind of share a lot of the, same similarities in terms of it's a very individual sport, but it is a brotherhood. So all the work is done by you, whether, you're martial arts and you're in a sparring match, or if you're, on a bodybuilding stage, you're doing all the work yourself. There's no teammates that can, pick up the slack for you, but it is, a brotherhood in the sense of the community of it, and the camaraderie of it. So they do share a lot of similarities in that regard, which is why I think bodybuilding, kind of picked up for me really quick. It was just, I kind of clung right to it. But I do want to show people that, it's like I said, I keep touching back on it, something that enhances your life, not dominates your life. It's something that makes your life better.
I think it'll be valuable too for people to see, the quality that can become from being a very good natural bodybuilder. There's still that, I don't know if stigma is the right word, but like, when someone hears like natural bodybuilding, they just, kind of just snuff it to the side, right? Like they want to see the Chris Bumsteads and the, Phil Heaths of the world. But like, if you look at a lot of top natural guys too, guys that will be on stage with you, like anybody looking at them will go, man, those guys are jacked. Like,
yeah, they look insane. Yeah.
Yeah. And people are going to go, man, they're natural. Like, are you sure? And, they'll, I'm sure in the documentary, go over the drug testing and all that kind of stuff. And it'll come up in conversation with all of you guys. And, by the end of the story, it'll be very evident that this is the natural side of the sport, but that doesn't mean that it's, not nearly as impressive. It's just on a different level, right?
Yeah, it's a completely different scale. Like I said, that's why I almost hate referring to it, with the high horse natural mentality. I feel like we have to do that because people don't understand it otherwise. Because if you just say, "Oh, I'm a pro bodybuilder,"
yeah,
they'll be like, "Why don't you look like Chris Bumstead?" I'm like, "Well, it doesn't really work that way. It's a different side of bodybuilding. It's natural bodybuilding." So they say, "Oh, okay," so then they don't really understand it. And then, plus a lot of those, a lot of the IFBB guys, they obviously stand out, on a page where we look pretty normal in street clothes, and then it's like they don't really see it until they either see show pictures. I mean, not to, this isn't to inflate anything, but I'm sure you've had the same thing from, clients or family or friends. But a lot of my clients at the gym, when they see a stage photo, if they haven't seen a stage photo before of me, they go, "I had no idea you had all that under there," because I'm wearing joggers and a hoodie when I'm training them. And I'm like, "Well, what'd you think I do, like with my free time?" And I joke with them, like, "Did you expect me not to lift weights?" Like,
Sure.
It's like going to your dentist and your dentist has bad teeth. Of course I lift weights. But, so like, what'd you think? But I feel like a lot of people just aren't educated on that side of it. They think, if you tell them, bodybuilding, they automatically think Arnold, Ronnie Coleman, Chris Bumstead, Phil Heath. Their brain just goes to that, and they don't understand that there's a completely, other side to things. So I think this is going to be good to educate a lot of people, and hopefully get a lot of people into the sport, or just get people to, pursue a greater version of themselves. That's really the end all be all. And I say that to my clients all the time, because I have a lot more, it's not really a competitive type gym, that I have. It's more, general lifestyle type clientele, with a few competitors here and there. But I tell all my lifestyle clients, look, you don't ever have to get on stage, but, your goal to be the best that should be at the forefront, whether you're, just trying to, lose a few pounds or whatever your goal is, it's just trying to be the best you. And I hope that this, kind of motivates and inspires people to do that.
I think it'll be good too, documenting the entire process, right? You can see the people that, like on YouTube, for example, that they vlog their prep and people get invested in that journey, and they can see like, okay, you started from point A and you lost 20-30 pounds. You documented that you were training every day and you were taking your supplements and eating the way you need to eat and all that kind of stuff. And you start to realize that me and you aren't different from really anybody else. We just follow a certain structure for a certain period of time, right?
Mm-hmm.
People look at the stage photos and go like, I don't know how you did that. And you're going to be like, man, watch the documentary.
Right, exactly. Watch the documentary, or follow me around for a few months.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly, you hit the nail on the head when you said follow the structure for a certain period of time. And I think that's the part that that bugs people out sometimes, is like a certain period of time is a lot of people want those instantaneous results, and they don't realize that it does take a little bit of work, and it takes adherence and consistency to get where you want to go. But like you said, they see the stage photo and they go, how on earth did you do that? Well, you didn't realize the 3 to 4 months of preparation that it went to do this, and also the 8 years that I've been training total seriously like this. So this is all a microcosm of all of that time. So people see the end result sometimes, and they either get discouraged or they say how, but they don't realize the preparation that goes into it. So it'll be cool to let people kind of behind the scenes, if you will, but it's not like we're doing anything fancy either. That's the cool part. They're going to be like, oh, you just you eat a certain way, and you make sure to get your training in, and you get your steps in, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, it's basic stuff. It's just repeated over and over again.
Yeah. So let's transition into your preps yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So when is the event this year? What's
the event? I believe I'm going to probably get the date wrong. October 9th. Actually, let me look. It's the first or second Saturday in October. Let's see. October 9th was correct. Yeah, Saturday, October 9th is the event date. Yep.
So when does prep start for you officially?
So I'm going to have to do things slightly different this year. Only because the first week of July, my wife and I are actually taking our full honeymoon. We took like a mini honeymoon. We got married in November. So we're going to take a full week. We'll be down in Aruba for a week, living it up, enjoying ourselves. So my plan is to start prep 3 to 4 weeks before that, and go a little bit aggressive, so because I know that week is going to be shot out, and then almost use that as, it'll be too early to call it a diet break, but I'm kind of baking in that I'm going to have a week off. So I'm starting a little bit earlier to, I guess, alleviate some of the stress of that, because I wouldn't want to start upon coming back from that, and have that be day one and have it kind of, slow moving from the start from there.
Get ahead of it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Try to get a little bit ahead of the game, get a little bit of that, initial, body fat off, just kind of, chip away a little bit, because I know that week is going to be completely shot, and then come back, pedal to the metal for the last, 3 months or so.
Nice. So talk to me a little bit about, how you structure your prep, calories, macros, what's your, plan of attack?
Absolutely. So typically my trouble is more so putting size on, rather than, taking body fat off. I usually never have a problem with conditioning. That's never my criticism, is like, oh, you could have been leaner. It's more so, maintaining fullness and, keeping the right size. So I feel like this year, with it being my 5th year competing, I finally kind of figured out, what works for me in that regard. And I switched to more of a lower volume, higher intensity approach, less total working sets, but, taking those working sets all the way to failure, beating the logbook, all those, principles that are sort of the hot topic right now. But figuring out, it was actually during lockdown of 2020 where I really kind of honed in, and I joke that I learned how to be a bodybuilder then, but it's kind of what happened, because the gym closed and everything seemingly kind of caving in on me. It was the only thing I could use as an outlet. Not that I didn't use it as an outlet before, but it truly became the only go-to outside of sitting in the 4 walls of my house. So really figured out a lot of things there. But then generally, as far as like macros go, right now I'm at probably 4,000 to 4,200 calories a day, kind of peak, off season, if you will. Weights climbing nicely. And then this past prep, I don't know if I went below 2,700, just because they went pretty high, in the off season. And one thing that I made mistakes of in the past was trying to outsmart the deficit. And this is something that I've been telling everybody, as I come about this year. So what I would do in previous years is, let's say, okay, I'd have my calories. Let's just take 3,000, make it an easy arbitrary number. And I would lose, 1.5 to 2 pounds. And I'd say, all right, I have to lower them to keep up with that deficit and, to be smarter and outsmart my body. Well, why? If you lost weight and you lost body fat and everything's trending in the right direction, why are you adjusting anything? So this time around in 2020, I may have made a half dozen adjustments to nutrition throughout the whole prep, because I made an initial adjustment and took a big drop, maybe 20% off my, peak off-season calories, and kind of rode that for 4 to 6 weeks. And then things kind of slowed down a little bit. So I made another chop and then rode that out for a while. So it was actually making less adjustments this year, found to be much more successful for me, and just letting the deficit do the work itself. Sure, I increased my steps along the way, and I was just making sure my training volume was in line for stuff that I could actually recover from now that I was in a deficit. So I was actually doing, less work in the gym and just letting the deficit do the work. Not trying to be focused on, building new muscle or, doing anything outlandish or anything crazy. So the gym volume dropped, the steps went up a little bit just to expend more calories. And I was just letting the, food that I was taking in kind of manage that energy balance for me and just let it do its thing, honestly, and be less complicated about it. And obviously, the approach kind of spoke for it. Was the best I've ever looked, best I've ever done. So we'll certainly run it back pretty similar for 2021.
Awesome. What's your weight change over prep?
So 2020 Mr. America, interesting luxury. Usually don't get to weigh yourself on show day, but I joke I have a little bit of a hometown advantage for Mr. America. So I'm in New Jersey, South Jersey, and the show's in Atlantic City. So it's literally 20 minutes, 30 minutes tops from my house. So it's a little bit of a hometown advantage, but I'm not mad about that at all. So the morning of the show, I believe I was 177 and change. And right now I'm fluctuating between 200 and 201 pounds. So, almost, a little over 20 pounds up, which is usually about where I'm at anyway. I think the heaviest I've ever been was 203. But it was a lot worse condition than I'm in now. So I am pretty happy with where I'm at. The weight climb has been steady, but, conditioning's not looking terrible. So, we'll keep pushing. And I only use the scale more so just as a measurement tool. I go a lot more by, pictures, which is another change I made more so in 2020. I used to be focused more so on it has to be a certain stage weight, or, you have to be a certain weight, because I would see competitor X weigh something or competitor Y, and I'm like, why am I looking at other people? Why don't I just judge what I see based off of eye? So I took a lot more progress pictures this year, analyzed those a lot more, measured it off gym performance and the progress pictures, and, came out with a much better physique as a result. So, using the eye test more so than just the numbers, just using the numbers to kind of validate the eye test has been a better approach.
How tall are you?
5'10" on a good day. Yeah, about 5'10".
5'10". We'll call it.
Yeah, so we'll say 5'10". It depends on if the hair's up or down. I've been 5'9" and 3/4. People, it's funny. I'm laughing about it because people always think I'm taller, but and I joke because it was only because at the Mr. America, standing next to Brandon Lirio, who's 5'5", it made me look like I was 6'2", but I'm like, no, I'm only 5'10". Yeah. I'm really not that tall.
So do you have any other events planned this year?
So it really is gonna just depend on travel, honestly. I would love to do, a couple more shows, because I'm a guy too. If I get in stage condition, I don't want to just waste it on one show. I mean, I want to, do some stuff. So on the radar, there is an ANBF show, I believe a couple weeks before the Mr. America. And the ANBF shows are local to me, so it's another one that's like kind of easy to travel to.
Yep.
So I may use that as, sort of a tune-up in the sense to kind of, it's nice to kind of get your mind right. I'm sure you kind of feel the same way. It's nice to kind of do that, like dust the cobwebs off, especially, you haven't competed for a year. It's nice to kind of get that feeler out there.
Yep.
And then 2 weeks after the Mr. America, there is the OCB Yorton Cup, which I did that show in 2019, and I will handily, I got my ass kicked at that show. That was a big humbler for me. So it would be nice to return to that show. They didn't have it in 2020 because of COVID. So it'd be nice to go back in 2021 and, show an improved me, because I know I didn't bring my best me to that show. And, I'm not going to kick myself for it. It's my fault. I totally kind of screwed myself up, just in terms of over dieting, over training. I just didn't bring the best me. And I was too worried about who I was competing against and comparing myself to other people. It was just a perfect storm for a bad performance, honestly. And I put that all on myself, but I've used that as fuel to make sure that never happens again. So 2020 was, as I've kind of, recollected with my, my lockdown, learning how to be a bodybuilder, it was, just focusing on me. And that's, how you really do the best of bodybuilding, is focusing on yourself and nobody else. So it would be nice to, return to that show and, kind of show the OCB judges, like, this is what I'm supposed to look like. This is, obviously 2 years later, so there should definitely be some improvements there.
Yep.
But it's sort of like a redemption thing for me. So that's in the back of my head. And if travel's nice to me, there's always the Natural Olympia in Vegas, which is another amazing title that I would love to. I've never been out to the West Coast, actually. So if travel is kind of, free and good to go, if, things have loosened up by then,
yep.
Which, God forbid, I hope they do. That's 9 months from now. Hope things are a lot looser by then. Maybe we can scoot out to the West and, and throw down at the Natural Olympia.
That's awesome, man. I look forward to watching the progress unfold. I'm excited for you.
Thanks, man. No, I appreciate that.
Where can people find you, man? Plug the socials. People want to
plug the socials. So I'm mainly an Instagram guy. So it's just my name, Joe _Lacerra. So last name spelled Lacerra. I threw the underscore in there because people used to think my name was Joel, because it was Joel, and I'm like, no, I'm just Joe. So I threw the underscore in there. So it's Joe _Lacerra. I pretty much keep that across all platforms. So, feel free to, shoot me a message on Facebook. So at the gym, I have some younger front desk employees that are trying to push me into the TikTok game. So I'm trying to make some TikTok videos because they're like, it's all the rage now. I'm like, okay, let's, I feel like the old boomer of the group, only 25, but, I'm the older brother of the group, everybody here. So they're trying to push me there. YouTube, I have a few videos on there, but haven't really been active on there. Hopefully, with the prep, maybe I can do, a documented series, of my own vlogs, nothing fancy. Yep. But most of my content does go to Instagram. So that's my main hub.
Cool. All right, people, you heard him there. Give him a follow on Instagram. Obviously stay up to date with his pending prep, and obviously give the Mr. America page a follow too, because I'm sure you'll see his face plastered all over there. As they're documenting everything. So I appreciate you coming on, my man. I appreciate everybody for watching. Please subscribe for future episodes, and we'll see you guys in the next one.